Doesn't matter how much oil you give him, little guy. You can't make a machine your brother.
You might already know him, but let me first introduce you to Yoko Taro, creator of the NieR series.
今日こうやってこの部屋の様子をお見せしているかっていうと、僕のゲームをプレイされる方、ファンの方の多くはちょっとどこか変わった人が多いなっていうふうに僕。
Would you be willing to answer some of them?
No.
ごめんなさい。まあその代わりですね、こちらの現地で頑張って。
But the biggest reason is that I just really like girls.
He's more complex than that, but he is a lot of that. So Yoko Taro made an appearance at PAX East 2017, the year NieR Automata first released. He likened the game's experience to memories of a middle school crush of sorts. This crush probably wasn't the smartest, prettiest, or most entertaining person, but you'd still favor them over the rest of your class for some reason. Automata would be like a fond memory you think about or look back at from time to time. To be honest, I think this is a bit of a strange analogy, but it captures the response Automata got perfectly. NieR, and Yoko Taro at that, are strange. This wasn't a game for everyone. The presentation, pacing, and gameplay were all met with some sort of criticism, but its narrative and characters have layers. It's one of those stories where you don't quite understand what's going on at first, and it only gets more confusing as you keep going. But once major plot points start to get revealed, things start to click. You repeatedly recontextualize past events, and the way the story comes together is something really special. So when a NieR anime was announced, I was kind of pessimistic. Could the anime do this story justice? We have a limited number of episodes, which to this day, the total number hasn't been officially confirmed. A lot of fantastic moments in the game use elements that are specific to the video game genre too. Conveying these ideas in another medium isn't an easy task, and we've seen other studios fail at this in the past. Though it does help a lot that Taro is in fact the writer for this anime. And if you know Yoko Taro, you know what that means. He himself feels that they shouldn't do a one-to-one adaptation. At Aniplex Online Fest last year, he discussed the show with its director, Ryoji Masuyama. He said that NieR Automata was a story we created to be a game, so copying it as is would make an interesting story for an anime. This got me excited now. Aniplex actually wanted to keep things faithful to the original story, but Yoko Taro pushed back on it. He even said, "I'm the one who's going around and breaking things for them, so if anyone's dissatisfied, it's likely going to be my fault." So we're looking at a NieR Automata anime that is similar but different to the video game. At the time of this video, the anime is currently delayed with 8 episodes out, and based on where we're at, it seems like this is another timeline or version of the original story. But there are a number of scenes that lead me to believe something else is going on. Let's take a close look at the big changes.
An android?
No.
Episode 1 was actually very similar to the video game, which is funny because apparently Taro pitched the first episode to be completely different from the game and it got swiftly rejected.
He's a backstabber.
A lot of these scenes are even one-to-one.
Activating short-range attack gear. Multiple enemy units confirmed.
I'm aware of that.
It looks like Aniplex really wanted at least the first episode to remain the same. The first act with the flight units though...
You're scaring me! Oh, no.
Very jarring CGI there, but once we got past that, it looked much better. These two look like two different anime. What's going on? Did you reuse assets from the game? Was this the first sign of trouble and the delays that were to come next a cry for help? A1 Pictures, please. Moving on, I really like this puppet show idea. It gets explained that Automata has multiple endings, and these puppet show clips do the job of adapting the joke endings in an entertaining way. If we don't include these, NieR actually has 5 real quote-unquote endings. Basically, the game is split up into 5 routes, and completing each of these routes will give you one of these endings. Like, the credits will roll every time you finish one, but the game isn't over, you still have more routes to complete. All you really need to know right now is that Route A and Route B happen simultaneously. A covers the first big chunk of the game from 2B's point of view, while B does the same thing from 9S's point of view. And yes, when the two are together, you're actually playing the same part of the game twice. And yes, there are some parts where the two split up, so you get completely new stuff. Some new scenes do get added to Route B whenever you get a repeat segment, so at least it's not exactly the same all the time. It didn't bother me too much, but it is something the fans of the game have always been divided on. In the anime, Route A and B are fused together as we'd expect. Whenever 2B and 9S are apart, you'll see the events from one of their perspectives, immediately followed by the others. Decent start, I think.
What is this?
Now this is the Yoko Taro I know. This episode starts with the story of PLA-08. This didn't happen in game. With almost no dialogue or facial expressions, this episode succeeds in telling us a thought-provoking story of a machine lifeform. It wakes up, surviving a battle with the dolls, the name they give the androids, and ignores its orders, walking away from conflict. It picks up a book with a lunar tier bookmark and then learns. It learns a lot. Instead of fighting, it looks for flowers. It starts to feel emotions. It cares for plants. It amasses followers and grows fields of flowers. But unfortunately, in a battle between the resistance and machine lifeforms, PLA-08's followers die. The machine lifeforms end up trampling its flowers. It gets caught up in the battle and is tragically killed. There's actually two events in the NieR world that come to mind after seeing this. A short story called Small Flowers from the NieR Strategy Guide, and the story of Plato 1728 from the game's DLC. Let's start with the short story. It's about a machine lifeform and a flower and takes place before the game's events. Name unknown. The machine from the story finds seeds in an android hideout. It decides to research them in the event that they contain hints on how to destroy the androids, though admits the probability is low. Through discussion in the machine network, it's decided that the machine that found the seeds is in charge of growing them, and so it starts to sow the seeds and nurture them. After 102 days, the flowers blossom. The machine starts to feel emotions when it looks at the plants. But unlike the machine from the anime, this one continues to fight the androids while caring for the plants. It eventually gets disconnected from the network, but will continue on with its flower mission regardless. 280 days after it started growing the plants, they start to brown. It doesn't understand what this means, but vows to protect the plant. He continues on with his mission since he has all eternity after all. And that's it. I guess this is how things would have went with PLA-08 if it didn't die. Then there's the story of Plato 1728, another machine lifeform. Its name is even kind of close to PLA-08. In fact, there are some scenes where the two are even framed in the same way. Plato's story is a bit confusing, but here's my interpretation of it. Plato was a loner who couldn't operate as well as the other machines. It couldn't walk fast, speak well, or fight effectively. But one day it found some junk and became obsessed with it. Plato thought he was the same as the junk since they were both useless. It seems to me like this junk is remains of a bunch of androids due to this line. Plato tried its hardest to protect this junk, but the factory ruins where it found it became a battlefield. The junk was destroyed and Plato got upset. This is where the PLA-08 and Plato actions diverge. Plato gets mad and starts destroying both the machine lifeforms and resistance units, while PLA-08 tries to stop its allies from trampling the flowers and gets caught up in the blast. So we got three different versions of a story where a machine lifeform develops an emotional attachment to something, and they all ended differently. It fits right into Automata's theme of meaning and existential despair. They find a cause or a reason to be and have to deal with feelings of struggle when it's taken away or threatened. I think there might be something else going on here too, but I'll come back to it. Just keep this in mind. One final thing to note is the addition of Lily. This resistance fighter has actually always been a part of the game's lore, but we didn't see her in game. She seems to have taken over the role of Anemone, the leader of the resistance in the game, who's just flat out missing in the anime up until episode 6. Some minor changes here, but we end up going to the desert as we do in the game. Along the way though, we get a cool reference to NieR Replicant added in, specifically these masks and this memory. This boss fight happens more or less the same way, though a cool escape sequence from the game gets cut out in the anime.
Come on! Through that hole! I really meant it though.
I think episode 4 was an amazing adaptation of the amusement park level. It's not one-to-one, but is fairly similar and conveyed the ideas from the game quite well. The way hacking is portrayed is worth noting especially. In the game, you enter a mini-game where the objective is to destroy these black targets while avoiding the orange orbs. In the anime, 9S is literally attacked by manifestations of the machine lifeform's memories. It's allowed the team to do some pretty creative stuff with the hacking sequences, and I'm looking forward to seeing how some other hacking scenes from the game turn out. As you'd expect, the actual progression through the levels from the game gets streamlined in the anime. It's a good way to keep the pacing consistent and shortens the amount of material to cover. One important aspect of the levels we missed though is the dialogue between 2B and 9S. You get a lot of information about their relationship and how it's progressing, some lore on the world and more, but the anime has found ways to work in those lines you wanted to see, so it's all good.
Start calling me 9s instead of 9S.
Maybe another time.
Oh, okay.
Report.
The order of things changes here a little bit. In the anime, while 2B and 9S head towards Pascal's machine village, they go through a shopping mall. I think this is the same shopping mall that appears a bit later in the game when 2B and 9S are headed towards Forest Kingdom. Kind of weird, something's missing from this scene too. But then we're hit with this. In the game, 2B and 9S meet Emil in the shopping mall and he's conscious. In the anime, he's an object of worship, which happens to be the reason why Pascal stopped fighting. So some context on Emil. After the end credits of ending B in NieR Replicant, we see Emil is now just a head who goes off to find his friends. Replicant is actually the prequel game to Automata, by the way, just in case you've never heard of it. The next time we'd see him is in that shopping mall in NieR Automata. Emil has his own series of side quests in the game, at the end of which he reveals he is just one of many copies of himself. The Emil we know in-game actually doesn't know where the original Emil is. So could the Emil we see in the anime be a different copy? Is it the original? I was actually hoping to see Emil's side quest series in the anime, but it doesn't look like that's happening. If this is a different Emil, this has some interesting implications if you know how the side quests end and have seen ending why. Back to the anime, 9S hacks Emil and finds a cool fragmented memory, another Replicant reference. In the village itself, we get to see some machines that are part of side quests in the game, like these two. This is a cool added scene too.
What was that?
9S? That was tasty. She drank it all.
I don't think anyone saw this coming. Episode 6 is an adaptation of an archive from the game, called Pearl Harbor Descent Summary. It recounts events during the 14th Machine War, where the group of Yorha we see here join up with members of the Resistance to destroy an enemy server. To get this archive in the game, you need to read all 3 novels on Anemone's computer, which I guess further supports the idea that Lily has replaced Anemone in the anime. We get some nice development for Lily and A2 out of it, so I'm glad this was added in. Who would have thought this was A2's original personality? Quite the change.
Boy. Oh, so I see.
I'm sorry, that was rude of her.
Try not to worry.
We get some side quests included here. It's actually a bit surprising. I would have thought side quests would have been like the first thing to be cut out, but it's not for some reason. Finding the flower for Operator 60 is kind of like the quest Find a Present in the game, though with a different flower. I guess it helps to get 60's character across to you. In the anime, we go to the Forest Kingdom in order to find the sister of the machine wearing a blue ribbon, a spin on the side quest called Lost Girl. This doesn't happen in the game. 2B and 9S decide to go to the Forest Kingdom after learning that the machines living there are cut off from the network, much like Pascal's village. There is an important part of the story that happens before the Forest Kingdom though. It doesn't exist in the anime yet, but I'll come back to this later. The whole Lost Girl subplot essentially replaces the Forest Kingdom level and mini-boss fight from the game, but it ends pretty much the same.
Jackass, was it?
I'm not sure how to feel about this one. The anime gives us more exposure to Devola and Popula, which is good. You'd get this through interacting with them and other Resistance members in game, but it happens a bit later than when we see it in the anime. Then we head to the flooded city level. In the game, we head there to help out the Resistance and end up fighting an aerial Goliath, followed by the ancient machine weapon. So it's possible something similar to the game was planned, but removed due to production issues. Remember the jarring CGI flight scenes from episode 1? Yeah, that's right. Maybe we would have ended up with the worst version of that. It moves slower than previous episodes and gives the characters time to breathe. At the end of the episode, we see that 9S has been attacked and is now split up from 2B. That brings us back in line with the game, where after the fight with the ancient machine weapon, 9S defeats it by using a hacked missile and exploding it into its mouth. He then gets thrown, flying off to an unknown location, separating himself from 2B. 2B would then run into Devila and Popula for the first time and then question them about 9S's whereabouts. That brings us to current day. Now we address the elephant in the room. There is a part of the game that was skipped, and given where episode 8 ends off, I don't think it's happening the same way. But the plot twist information we learn will probably make an appearance later, so if you're an anime only, I'd recommend skipping to this part shown on screen if you don't want to be spoiled. So we're missing the fight with the Goliath-class machines that happens in the abandoned city. Once those are taken down, we learn the aliens are hiding underground, so 2B and 9S head down to try and find them. But it turns out all the aliens are dead, and the Adam and Eve fight proceeds.
Set your heart free.
What happened here? Since Adam is no longer with Eve, I'm guessing that means he's left to kidnap 9S, so I'm not sure if we can add this encounter in anymore. So is this just not included due to production issues? The fight with the Goliaths and the duo are intensive, so I guess it's a possibility. But maybe the aliens aren't dead in this version of the story. Or maybe not dead yet. That brings us to theory time. What if the version of the story in the anime is a prequel to the game? We know 2B's job is to kill 9S every time he learns too much, and they've been in this continuous cycle before the events of the game even occur. So it's possible the anime is just showing us a previous cycle of events. There are a lot more subtle hints alluding to the fact that 2B has known 9S and doesn't want to get close to him in the anime. If this was a previous cycle, then the 3 machine lifeforms that become obsessed over an object could be iterations of the same machine. We don't run into Emil in the shopping center because that happens much later in the future. The Emil in the tree could be the original, just sitting there hidden away, which is why the game Emil doesn't know where it is. Lily becomes Anemone maybe? They fulfill the same role, dress similarly, and she has a lot more focus in the anime. Maybe something happens to her that causes Anemone to exist or revive. The fight against the ancient machine weapon could be intentionally left out because it happens in the future as well. But there is a lot that goes against this theory. We would need a complete reset on Simone somehow, because it's dead. Though I guess it's possible another machine life form repeats its actions the same way the Obsessive 3 seem to be. Adam, Eve, Pascal, and a number of other machine life forms would need some kind of reset as well. It seems like too much of a stretch if we assume they're all part of a cycle of machine lifeforms deviating from their programming. Interesting thing to consider though, it almost works but it doesn't based on what we know of as of now. We'll see what happens. These differences are starting to add up, but we haven't gotten any of the large plot twists revealed yet. It's hard to say how differently the anime will end right now. We've paused at a point where Yoko Taro can do a lot of different things with the story, but what I'm seeing so far is not bad. It's added more detail to the characters of the NieR universe at the very least, and I'm looking forward to seeing where this goes. Hopefully A1 can bounce back. 86 did come back strong after all.